So
we are officially recording.
Span, don't look so serious, man. It's just for fun.
So I will say for me, right, if you don't mind me taking the helm on the intros. My name is Staff Sergeant Piper. I came into the Army back in 2012, so I've been in about 8 years now. I started as an E1. I didn't go through any of the prereqs as far as being able to promote early. So what we do right now is we're able to actually come in as an E3 with no actual accelerated education beyond high school, just by referring people to your recruiter. So I didn't do anything like that. I came in as an E1. I went to basic training down in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and I actually got the job of a 35 Gulf, which is a 6-month train up for advanced individual training. And I went to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. While I was out there, I had a ton of time, so I had made a lot of friends. We went out hiking on the weekends and stuff like that. The course was pretty rigorous. It's very mentally challenging, but had a lot of fun. And because it's a top secret clearance type job, you don't get to bring your work home with you. So the evenings and weekends, we would be out partying and hiking and stuff like that, which was also something that I didn't consider when I was getting into it, but it was super exciting for me to get into doing something completely new. Because before the military, I did 8 years of carpentry work. I worked for the Union Local 2212 out of New Jersey doing flooring. So to go from something that's physically exerting to something that's mentally tiring, honestly, it was a very different jump. And it was something I had no prior experience in. I just qualified for it based off of my lines course and was good to go. But made a lot of really good friends out in AIT. People that I continue to talk to today. Actually in 2018, we went out to one of my people that I met at AIT wanted me to be his best man at his wedding about 6 years later. So I flew out to Minnesota to go be his best man. And that's when we conceived my first child. So that was super interesting. I will say pontoon boats and fireball is not the best idea, but things happen. So after AIT, I was stationed in Korea. So I was out in Yongsan, South Korea for about 3 years. It's 1 year typical tours. Once upon a time, I think they're trying to transition right now to do 3-year tours. But I was there for 1 year, and then I decided I really liked the culture. I liked being around the people. I got to learn some of the language, some of the dichotomies and stuff like that. So I stayed for another year. I met my first wife, so I stayed for an additional year, equaling 3. And then from there, I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I was there for 4 years, and then recently got transferred up here. But Fort Bragg was awesome. The weather was always warm. We have very long winters up here in Michigan in comparison to what I'm used to. Fort Bragg was like you have 2 weeks of below 32-degree weather, and that's about the extent of that. And if you do see snow, it was probably a bad winter.
Yeah, it's always hot as heck out there, man. It's like I was there from September to, I don't know, in September sometime, and it was blistering, like scorching hot out there. So
at Bragg?
Yeah.
Oh man, Bragg was always super nice for me. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so I know that a lot, there's probably a lot of questions. There's a lot more that goes into all this, right? So to kind of give you my combat experience in 2017, I was, I guess, kind of weird off-topic story. I was going through a divorce when my sergeant major approached me to say, hey, there's this opportunity to go out to Afghanistan to go run a team. It would be an accelerated promotion, essentially a battlefield promotion where I would be serving in an E7 slot as an E5, which just means I'd be serving 2 positions above where I currently was at in my military career. So I took it, and I was able to get divorced from the legal services that they actually had downrange in Afghanistan. So just as an idea of how built up we are in these countries, is that you're able to go through formal law proceedings as well as, I'm working in a concrete building, sleeping in a concrete building. There was green bean coffee as the Starbucks of the Middle East, which that was awesome. You know, nothing like having a vanilla latte at 2:00 in the morning. But that's a little bit about me. If you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below when this gets posted, and we'll get to them the next time we do another function of the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole. What do you got, Sergeant Span?
So I'm Sergeant First Class Kurt Span. Been in the Army a little over 20 years now. Joined straight out of high school because I didn't know what I was going to be doing, like a lot of us. And coming from a middle-class family and a dad that wasn't going to pay for my college, which there's, no hate against him for that, but I had to figure it out on my own. The Army was not something that I planned on doing. I just went down to talk to a recruiter as a referral to help another friend from high school who graduated the year before me try to get promoted. After hearing what the recruiter had to say, seemed like a pretty good idea. So January 2000, you guys can imagine that, I shipped off to basic training, became a combat engineer. Once I got done with that, I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which no one knows where it's at except for those of us that have visited there. So from there, I went to Korea, had a great time. Spent 15 months there driving a tour bus, got to experience the culture, see some of the stuff that normal tourists don't get to see because of our relationship with the South Korean soldiers there. So that was pretty awesome. I got off active duty, came back home to Michigan, and started looking for jobs. I worked a couple of different jobs before I became a carpenter. I got into the local 1, 2, 3, 4. That is not made up.
I was just saying that doesn't sound real.
It's the real local, swear. Became a rough framing carpenter apprentice. About 9 months after that, I got recalled, sent to Iraq with the Texas National Guard. That was not the best experience that I had, but I was super happy to be back into the Army. I'd missed the team and the camaraderie that I had experienced for the first 4 years after high school, kind of replaced that high school wrestling team. From there, I came back home and I joined the reserves. So I became a military police officer and went to Afghanistan. Did a tour in Afghanistan, came home, volunteered to do a what we call an OCT tour, observer, controller, trainer. So the guys that were going overseas, I ran them through certain drills. Some of the drills that we did was reflexive fire, buddy stress shoot, and the live fire shoot house. Super exciting stuff. From there, I volunteered to go to Cuba, do another direct MP mission. Once I got done with Cuba, I decided that I wanted to kind of focus on my civilian career. Given the Army Reserves about 6 years straight time almost, and I decided that it was time to build a career up on the civilian side. So I got into security using my military background, not just my military police background, but my military background as a whole. Did that for 3 years, had a couple of kids, and my wife and I decided that we wanted her to stay home and raise our kids. So I said, hey, there's this active reserve program that I can apply to and see if they'll bring me back onto active duty as a reservist. Luckily for me, I got selected to be a AGR recruiter, and I've been stationed in Lansing, Michigan since. It's a lot of benefits to the 20 years that I've been in. So.
20 years. All right, man. So, hey, I'm going to just talk a little bit about myself. I'm Staff Sergeant Josh Rose. Grew up right here in Lansing, Michigan. As you can tell, got the Michigan State flag, Michigan State sweatshirt. I'm a huge Michigan State fan. Anything Michigan State sports, we can talk about it all day. I graduated from Obed High School in 2006, and then I joined the Army in 2008. Before I joined the Army, I was doing some construction stuff. I was, working, removing asbestos out of buildings, and I just woke up one day and I was like, man, this isn't it. I was going to LCC part-time, just kind of floating along. And I was just like, this isn't it, man. This is not what I want the rest of my life to be. And my eventual family, one day I want to be able to provide for them, and working this dead end job is not going to cut it. So I talked to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, but talked to my girlfriend and I was like, hey, what do you think about me joining the military? It was a heck no. I'll never marry anybody in the military. Her dad was in the Marines for like 12 years, and she just didn't want to do it. And I was like, well, look, this is what I want to do. So, and I think that it'll be what's best for us. And we ended up eventually agreeing on it after a little bit more, persuading. So I went in, talked to the recruiter, and I was like, hey, I was like, hey, let me take the test and then find me a job that'll give me the biggest bonus that you can, because I'm only doing 3 years. Give me the biggest bonus that you can, and then set me up for after I decide to get out. And so I went in, took the test, qualified, and I became a 35 November, which is a signals intelligence analyst. So Sergeant Piper works with imagery and does stuff with that, and whereas I work with signals. Basically, I'm looking at data and anything that emits a signal, and we're analyzing that and making decisions and helping commanders make decisions. That's my ultimate job. I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And then from there, I actually went to language class at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. Spent a year in DLI. Did a lot of really cool stuff out there. And not even just like learning a whole language in 6 months. I had a little bit of experience in Spanish. I did 4 years in high school, but we surpassed those 4 years in like the first week. Insane. It's like just rapid fire learning, man. It's crazy. But I actually came out of that with 45 college credits. So in 6 months, I got 45 college credits, and I was like two or three classes away from an associate's degree, which is part of the reason that we're actually going to have this conversation, because a lot of people don't realize all the crazy education benefits that the Army actually has. So from Monterey, I went to Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas, where I actually learned how to do my job. That's another 6-month training. So I spent a year and a half in training, and I actually ended up leaving with like 88 college credits or something like that, pretty close to that. So between the 45 and then I got like 30 out of my, so I guess it's like 77, something crazy, 33. I don't know. I got a lot of college credits out of my training, but I spent a year and a half doing it. From there, I went to Hawaii, where I worked with the NSA, and we were doing STRATCOM's #1 target priority, doing a lot of really cool stuff. So I've done a lot of really cool stuff. I've been with NSA or US Cybercom my entire career, and it's just a lot of stuff that we do that we're not allowed to talk about. So, I mean, if there's one selling point, I guess that's, you don't ever have to, explain to people what you do. It's more just, hey, if I tell you I'm going to kill you type thing, you know what I'm saying? So, no, I'm just kidding. It's nothing like that. But really, like I've been to Hawaii. I lived in Denver, Colorado for 3 years, and then I went back to Hawaii. When I was in Colorado, I was also with the NSA, doing some pretty cool stuff there. I actually qualified. I could have qualified for my space badge while I was working there, but I didn't take the class because I was getting ready to leave. So I was just like, I don't really want to take the class right now, because just give that slot to somebody else, essentially.
Missed opportunities, bro.
Which was a huge missed opportunity. Like I wish I didn't, because the space badge is not super common. And then I went back to Hawaii, where I was with US Cybercom. We were doing a lot of really cool stuff that we can't talk about But that job was pretty fulfilling, and I got to see another side of, you know, what the Army has to offer as far as, you know, cybersecurity. You want to talk about like top-notch training that you don't have to pay for. It's the real deal out there. The training that they were giving people is insane, and it's training that people pay a lot of money for, and they were just giving it to people for free. So and that kind of is going to lead us into what we're going to talk about now. What I want to talk about today is Army education. Like, what is it? What are some of the programs that we have as an Army? And I guess we should probably do like a little introduction of the show, because we didn't do that. We all introduced ourselves, and we should kind of run through like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. So this is going to be episode 1 of what we're going to call the rabbit hole. We're going to just pick a topic, and then we're going to freeball it, or freeball. we're going to freestyle. Yeah, we're going to have to edit that one out. But we're going to freestyle it. You know what I'm saying? So we today we're just going to talk about Army education programs and everything that the Army provides. And then so I think that what we can start with is, so what kind of educational experiences do you guys have? I mean, what are your guys' education backgrounds? Are you guys going to school now? What are you doing as far as using education benefits? Go, don't all jump at once, man.
I don't know who's going first.
It don't matter. It doesn't matter.
So I guess starting from the bottom of the barrel, right? I think I'm at the bottom of this education barrel. I've never set foot in a college campus other than to recruit there. So me personally, I think I have 36 or 38 college credits right now, and that has nothing to do with me going to college. It's just through, it's called the Joint Services Transcript, or JST. So everything that you do in your military career, it is all transferred over to this JST. And what that does is capture all the classes and courses that you've gone through, whether it's professional leadership development, whether it's your advanced individual training, basic training, even the stuff that we do online, which we call the structured self-development, that counts as college credits. And actually, I did pull up an example if you want me to quickly skim through it, Rose.
I mean, if you want to, yeah, that's fine. We can. So I think that, I don't know how you're going to share that. You're just going to flip your phone to it.
Yeah, you see it?
Nice. Yeah, that looks good.
So all it does is like, so for example, if we get down here, so this is basic combat training. It gave me college credits towards first aid, land nav, marksmanship, physical fitness, and self-defense. So these are all identifiers and codes that colleges can use to be able to get you college credits. Yeah, this is an example of the online training, structured self-development 1. It gives you a leadership and military science, as well as a warrior leaders course, or BLC, is leadership and management. And it breaks it down. This is 7 pages long of all the different stuff you can do. Something I forgot completely about was this right here, the college level examination program known as CLEP or Dante's. It actually records your scores on there. It's something the military provides for free, where you can test out of specific courses. So I tested out of my college composition course, which is essentially just an English course, and I clept out of it just by studying on my own and then going to take the test, and I passed it with 2 points to spare. So that's another college course I don't have to do.
Yeah, so I think that's like one of the most overlooked things that people don't take advantage of. Actually, I'm in a class right now that I probably should have clept. But and I think that there's a benefit to that, right? Like a lot of people pay, what is it, like $60, $70 a test to take these CLEP tests.
Yeah, so the CLEP test for military or the Dante's test, it's free for your first attempt, and then the second attempt is $50. Yeah. So if you pass it the first time, it's 100% free, and then any additional time you have to pay for.
Yeah. So that's like a crazy amount of college credits, because when you look at it, that saves you on your, which we're going to talk about later, it saves you money on your tuition assistance.
And it doesn't count against your tuition assistance either.
Right. So what about you, Sergeant Span? What kind of stuff do you have for, as far, just basic education? Like, how are you using the Army's education benefits and stuff like that?
Right. A little more untraditional and stuff that maybe people aren't aware of. Like I said, when I became a rough carpenter apprentice, I actually used my tuition assistance, not my tuition assistance, my GI Bill to actually pay for my tools and my books while I was going to apprenticeship school. And the nice thing about that is that money goes directly to you. So in most union apprenticeships, and probably non-union, I don't know as much about the non-union side as the union side, but most of the time the union is paying for you to go to that school. So they pay you while you go to school, but the GI Bill will also pay you while you go to school. So that's just extra income, kind of help offset the cost of your tools or help pay other bills. One of the other cool things that I used my GI Bill for was a certificate, which was explosive dog handler training. So the post 9/11 paid me to go to dog handler school as well as dog trainer school. So I spent about 5 months using my GI Bill without a job to support myself while I went and got certified as an explosive bomb dog handler. So a lot of people aren't aware that, you don't just have to use your education benefits for college. There's all certifications in almost any of the trades. And then obviously non-trade stuff like the explosive bomb dog handler school that I went to. And then, of course, I did use tuition assistance when I was on active duty to take a HVAC class. And then I took one semester at the University of Louisville to start just general studies. So I've kind of used my benefits in an array of ways. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love the dog handler stuff that you were able to do. I think I've heard you tell people that, or just talk about that in general, like a bunch of times, and it's really cool that you get to use it.
Yeah, and so the dog handler thing, that was like an amazing experience. Obviously, I'm an MP by trade, but I never was around dogs in the reserves. There's only one reserve canine unit, and that's up in Maryland, the AGR position. So there was no real experience that went into that other than I had an opportunity to try to pursue another career that sounded like fun. And the 4 months that I spent at the school was some of the funnest times that I had. The bite suit, seeing what dogs can do, learning about dogs, and the whole time not having to worry about how to do that. I can just concentrate strictly on learning something that I had no experience in, so I could be the best that I could be at it. So,
right. Yeah. So how am I using the educational benefits? So actually, I use them to the fullest extent. I don't do anything cool like Sergeant Span did, going through and doing the dog handler stuff. As you see my dog in the background right there. But I think that I'm using them to go right now. So I'm actually currently enrolled in Arizona State. I've been enrolled in college pretty much my entire career, going for different things as I, decide exactly what I want to do with my life. The more I look at it, the more it just looks like I kind of want to open a business. So I ended up deciding on a leadership and then with a business interdisciplinary studies. So I'm currently going to Arizona State, in the way that the Arizona State works. So I'm an out-of-state resident technically. So like, each one of their classes is super expensive. It's like $1,600-$1,700 or something like that a class. And I don't have the exact numbers, but It's like almost $1,700 a class, and the Army pays up to $250 a credit hour. So the Army pays $750 for this class. And then since Arizona State, it has the Pat Tillman Foundation, which is awesome, by the way. The Pat Tillman Foundation is probably one of the most amazing things. But that's for a little bit, another episode. But like, so then they take a non-competitive scholarship, and they basically pay for the rest of my school. I don't have to use any of my FAFSA. I don't have to take out any student loans to go there, even though the courses they cost more than what I'm paid for by the Army. And I mean, $250 a credit hour is a lot of money. So when you double that, it's pretty amazing thing to get the scholarship so that I don't have to do anything. And I get to go to a pretty amazing school.
But you get that because you're in the military?
Right. So any reservist, current reservist, or active duty soldier qualifies, and it's in a non-competitive scholarship. So you just basically submit your tuition assistance, and then they pay for it. So I think that like that's I don't even know how many people they have that do that. But I would assume it's a lot, because the Pat Tillman Foundation kind of attracts a lot of veterans. So, and then a lot of people using their GI Bill, which is probably going to be the next thing that we should talk about. We kind of hit on the JSTs, and I think that, you showed a lot of that, but where do you guys think a lot of those credits apply? So I know that when I applied at Arizona State, a lot of those credits, so I actually ended up with like 110 credits, or something like that. And a lot of those credits that we get on our JSTs, where do you think they apply? And I think that we'll start with you, Sergeant Span. Where do you guys see those apply, for most people?
I don't really know. I haven't done my JSTs yet. Slacking in that department.
Everything.
Yeah. Everything I've been told, though, is basically it's going to cover most of your general studies and your electives. So obviously basic training will cover any kind of physical elective that you might take. Like I had one applicant, they took rock climbing as part of their molecular I can't even say it. That's how smart this person is. And one of their classes was rock climbing. So basic training would, fulfill that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Sergeant Piper? Have you talked to anybody that's used it? Because I know you said you're not currently using it.
So I've dabbled in it. It's going to college is something I'd always thought about, but with my projection for what I want to do when I retire, or even when I get done with the military, I don't really need a degree. I only want to use it because it's free, and
right.
That's the only reason I'm probably going to end up getting a degree. And that's something for later. I'd like to get you to walk through like how to actually go through the process of it, because whether or not anyone else wants to listen and go through the process, I'm going to do it. So
yeah,
you'll be benefiting me. As far as the JST, though, sitting down with a lot of the counselors that I've sat down and talked to, the administrators and stuff like that, it covers a lot of your leadership billets. The Gen Ed studies, it covers a couple of those, but like mathematics, it doesn't cover. The Englishes, it doesn't cover. That's why I had to CLEP those specifically. But it also covers like communication skills, a lot of general management skills. The JST covers a lot of that, because based off of the foundational knowledge you get through military training, you have to communicate. You have to be able to delegate tasks. You have to be able to manage teams, essentially.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was at when I applied at Arizona State. They kind of took all of my JSTs, my high school transcripts, basically all of my transcripts, and they just evaluated them. And I mean, my JSTs filled up a lot of my general ed studies, like a lot of the electives and stuff like that. It took care of a lot of those. I mean, I came into the military with like 3 college credits or something crazy like that. And then I applied at Arizona State after 10 years, and I have 110 credits that apply to that. So like, and that's with only taking minimal classes. And I mean, obviously I've been in 10 years and I don't have my degree. So, but that's because I was, for a little while, I was putting my career and my family ahead of school. Now though, I'm balancing them. I didn't know how to balance. And I think that a lot of people have that issue, where they are still working through how to balance their family, their personal time. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to balance, being on active duty. It's a little bit easier in the reserves. Excuse me. It's not the COVID, guys. I had a pretty bad sinus infection last week, so I'm still kind of getting over that. But I mean, there's a whole, a whole balancing act that we have to do. And I mean, that's with anybody that's working full time, has a family, you kind of have to figure out how to balance that. And it took me a little while to do that. So I've been going on, this will be my 12th year. So I've been in for a minute, and I'm just finally learning how to balance that. And I think that it has a lot to do with getting older. I might look like I'm 50, with a mustache, but I'm only 32. So
you gotta get rid of that mustache.
No, I'm keeping it until we're unquarantined. So it's about to get a lot bigger. It's for sure.
It's this comfort caterpillar.
Yeah, I need to get it in regs though. It's a little out of regs, but yeah. So like, I think that figuring out how to balance everything is the most important thing. And I finally figured out how to do that. And that's when I took the step to apply at Arizona State. And they really took care of me. Not that this is an advertisement for them, but they also took all of the training that I did. They evaluated it all and they applied it to my degree, and where I only need to take like 15 classes. After not taking any classes, I need to take like 10 or 15 classes or something like that, which is, I guess there's a pretty big gap there, but it's crazy that I'm going to have a bachelor's degree probably by the end of next year because I'm taking 2 classes a semester right now.
So here's my question for you on that.
Yeah.
How long have you been trying to get your degree now? So like in years counting, right?
So I've been doing it. I mean, I've been doing it forever. Like, but the problem is,
like actively now, like you have a goal, like you're going to get your bachelor's.
Yeah.
When did that start exactly?
So currently I started probably around this time. Around August of last year. So I was not gonna pursue going to Arizona State because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
So actively you've been doing it for about a year and a half.
Yeah. So like passively, yeah. Actively, I've been doing it for about a year and a half. Passively, I've been doing it for like 5 or 6 years. I mean, like taking 1 class a year.
How many? So you're saying you're doing it like 1 class a year or 1 class a semester?
No, that's what I was doing. So now I'm taking 2 classes a semester. So the way that they split their semester up, they have an A and a B session, and they're 8-week classes. So I basically it's a condensed class. It's not, but you still got to get all of the material. And so they basically just double up your workload over the 8 weeks. And so I'm taking 2 classes, but it's really only 1 class at a time because the semesters are split in half. So, but yeah, so.
And how hard is it to keep up with everything between work and home and everything else?
So I think that so I'm doing good right now. I'm actually in a class where they opened the whole class up because of this COVID-19 thing. So they want to make sure that everybody has it, they can get as much done as they want. So right now we're in week 3 of the class, and I'm done through weeks 5 on my work. So I can not log in for the next 2 weeks if I didn't want to, but I'm probably going to finish it by the end of this week. So I'll have an 8-week class done in 3 weeks. And I mean, that's thanks to, being able to stay at home and work and still get paid and not have to worry about any of that stuff. But so tuition assistance, and I think we kind of hit on that. So you've used your tuition assistance. Sergeant Piper, you really haven't used tuition assistance.
No.
So I guess what's keeping you from using it? If you don't mind, I don't want to
No, you're good. So I never had it in my path for me.
Yeah.
At one point I wanted to do applied sciences intelligence studies because that's what my background is in. And then that way if I was going to transition out, because this was prior to me deciding I was just going to do this until the Army doesn't need me anymore. I had connections at the DEA in Newark, New Jersey, and I was going to use my associates in applied sciences intelligence studies to be able to isolate my slot working for the DEA, trying to find like drug busts throughout the world and stuff like that. So that was my plan and intent, but after my goals changed and I just wanted to do this until they don't need me, it just fell off. I don't really need to worry about education at all.
Right.
The only reason I'm trying to get into it now is just because I have it, and why not?
Yeah, and we kind of need it to get promoted, right? Like,
no, again, the promotion thing I don't really care too much about either, but yeah, it does make you much more competitive as far as like, especially going to pick up E7. You need to have at least an associate's in this day and age to be able to get it. I don't know, back like in the caveman area, the Paleolithic era, you probably didn't need a degree, right, Span?
No, so degrees always made you more competitive for the senior ranks. Obviously, it weighs much more now than it did before due to just the push in general. More and more people are getting that degree, that piece of paper. And so with that happening, it just makes the degree that much more relevant. And like you said, there's no reason not to when it's basically free.
Right. Yeah. So that, I mean, tuition assistance is kind of self-explanatory, right? Like there's a lot of intricacies and stuff like that we have to go through. But I mean, at the end of the day, $250 a credit hour is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, there's some paperwork that we got to do on our end, but that's not important for this. All that you need to know is that you're going to get $4,500 a year to continue go to school, and that doesn't even count against your GI Bill, which is actually the next topic, right? Like I kind of want to hit on the GI Bill, and just talk about like when you think about the GI Bill, like what's the perfect use for, and sorry, Span, I want to hit on the reserve side too, because I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, and I think that's part of the reason for this thing, is because a lot of the interviews and stuff that we conduct and a lot of the talking that we do is just us on the spot. So I think that us, just showing that we kind of know at least for the most part everything that the Army offers for education benefits, that's important. And so what, on the reserve side, let's start there. What kind of benefits do you guys have for college students or people that just want to do part-time as far as the GI Bill goes?
So the nice thing about the GI Bill for the reserves is that the money goes directly to the student. It doesn't go to the school. Obviously, there are like 97,000 different versions of the GI Bill. So one of the nice things is that most colleges, at least that I know of, every college has a VA representative, someone that can help you establish which version of the GI Bill you're going to be using and how to use it. It's pretty simple to use. Not trying to get into that, but same thing, just fill out some paperwork. They give you that paperwork back. You take it to the school and then start registering for your classes. So some of the benefits. Obviously, we have a kicker. So the GI Bill pays out a set dollar amount per month. It's approximately $390 that it pays out every month directly to the student. Depending on whether or not you qualify for one of the kickers, it's you can get up to an extra $350 per month. Now, that breaks down into whether you're going to school full-time, part-time, so on and so forth. So the longer or the more classes, that's what I'm looking to say, the more classes that you're taking, obviously the more money that's going to be paid directly to you. So why is that important? Two reasons. One, if you have a scholarship, you can use that money to take care of other things, take care of your books, help cover other bills. If you don't have a scholarship and you're paying for that out of your own pocket, that you're smart enough to take that money and actually use it towards the college. So you don't do like some people that I know, go ahead and take out a loan and then use that loan towards, say, a new computer, but never pay for your loan itself. And then, 10 years, 12 years later, you're still paying off college that should have already been paid for. It allows you to be flexible. If you don't want to go to school during the summer, you don't have to go to school during the summer. It's still going to pay you for that. If you want to take summer classes but not full time, it still allows you to do that because it just shortens the dollar amount that it gives you while you're doing it. So you can, get that 4-year degree that takes 36 months to get, if that makes sense.
Okay. So what's the dollar amount that is capped at as far as the kicker? Or, both. Like, what's the kicker? Is there a cap on the kicker?
There's a cap. The cap is $350 extra on top of that. I think the exact number is like $392 a month. Okay. But the kicker caps at $350.
And then
the GI Bill itself caps at just over $14,000. That's not including the kicker. So that $14,000 and some change is your $392 a month across 36 months of going to school full time. So, or if you only go half time, what's half time going to take you? 72 months. So that's $212 or something like that.
We know math's not your strong suit. We don't have to. I'm just playing. Yeah, so it does cap out at $350 a month, though, and and that's over
kicker,
30.
Just the kicker.
Just the kicker, and then that's over a 36-month period, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then do you still get to use tuition assistance while you're doing that?
Yes, you can still use tuition assistance on top of your GI Bill or in conjunction with your GI Bill. So it's just super simple process and another $4,500 a year that you can use towards your education.
Yeah, so basically what you can go to school full-time. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. I don't know if you can hear. So you can go to school full-time, do a part-time job in the reserves, get trained to do that job while you're going to school, and then not pay anything for college, or at least significantly reduce the amount of money that you pay to go to college.
At a very minimum, you're going to significantly reduce the cost of college, if not pay for it altogether. Right. And one of the interesting things that you brought up is, what do most college students not get while they're going to college?
Work experience, right?
Work experience. And so depending on what job it is that you pick in the reserves and what it is that you're going to college for. Now, not every reservist goes to college for what they do in the reserves. However, you can combine those two. As an example, you want to be a police officer, and so you're taking criminal justice classes. What you can do is become a military police officer and then start obtaining that real life experience to go in conjunction with your college degree, if that makes sense. That's one of the simpler examples that I can think of. There are quite a few other out there.
Yeah. So I kind of looked it up a little bit. Sergeant Piper, what do you know about like the active duty side as far as the GI Bill goes, and how does that work?
So the active duty GI Bill is not something you typically use concurrently to actual service time. So the way I kind of briefly described the three different avenues of approach for young men and women who are interested in hearing what their options are and trying to set life plans is there's college immediately right after high school. There's job experience, so getting straight employment, and then there's the military that fuses the two. With active duty side, as we showed earlier, the JST, you go through active training and you're still getting college experience. You still have tuition assistance readily available as soon as you get done with training and you're at your first unit. The TTPs change a little bit. Sometimes you have to be there for a year. I believe right now, as soon as you graduate AIT, that tuition assistance is available immediately. So that $4,500 to be able to do a class or two each semester, to be able to get your bachelor. So the way in active duty to maximize your money's worth, as it were, for the educational piece, use your tuition assistance while you're serving in active duty. If you really want to focus and buckle down, you can do 4 years of active duty time. Use all your tuition assistance as much as possible. And then when you go to retire out after your 4 years of honorable service, you have the Montgomery GI Bill or the post 9/11 GI Bill, which allows you to get, it's essentially a piece of paper that says, here's enough money to get a free bachelor's degree. And not only are you just going to school and having it paid for, as long as you served honorably and you get discharged properly, they'll actually pay for housing as well as your school. So that way you could just focus in on doing full-time school. You don't have to worry about getting a job to be able to pay for your rent and stuff like that. The other option that you can do with your Montgomery GI Bill too is, I believe it's 8 years, right, Rose?
For what? I'm sorry.
To transfer the GI Bill to your kids or spouse, it's 8 years.
So they just changed it, and I want to say that they made it to 10, but I mean, we would have to look that up. I know that it is transferable after a certain period of time, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's a very specific amount of time that you'd have to do, and like we just were describing, it changes every once in a while. It used to be 10 years. I think it was 8 years when I last looked into it. But
so maybe they changed it from 10 to 8, and I'm getting it mixed up. I know that there's a certain amount of time. That's all that I know.
Yeah, but so what would happen is that Montgomery GI Bill, if you use your tuition assistance to get your bachelor's degree while you're concurrently serving, you're able to transfer that to your son, daughter, to your spouse, any immediate family, to be able to get their bachelor's degree for free. It was what I was going to do for my kids, because I was single up until about 3 years ago. I met my wife. She has twin boys. And then we also have my daughter. There's no reason for them to have to use my Montgomery GI Bill, because they can just do the reserves and get their education for free. But what'll probably end up happening is I'll transfer my GI Bill to my wife so we can pay down her student loans, and she'd be able to utilize it to finish her nursing degree as well. So that's the other way of using your Montgomery GI Bill, because there's no reason to pay for it or wait until you're done with your service to be able to utilize it for yourself. If you're getting the free education there, all it takes is just doing a course a semester and you're ready to rip. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is that, I've waited long enough. I should probably get at least a business and consulting type degree. So that way, when it comes to owning my own business, when I get done, at least I have a piece of paper that says that I can theoretically do this from a book.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think that it's pretty important to differentiate too, but the differences between the Montgomery and the post 9/11. I don't think and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong here. The Montgomery's not available anymore for active duty anymore, right? It's just post 9/11.
It's post 9/11. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think that the post I paid for the Montgomery when I came in, and that was the $100 a month. And then so I'm still waiting because I think I'm going to switch to the post 9/11 because it's so much better. The post 9/11, you get the $1,000 a month for books. You get paid housing based on where your school is located, and plus they're going to pay for your tuition. So I think that like all in all, it all equals out to like $88,000, or not. Geez, that seems high. That's crazy. $72,000. But like, it all that's about what it adds up to right now is somewhere around there. And I'm not trying, and like I said, we're just freestyling here, right? Like it essentially pays for a bachelor's degree. You're going to get a full ride degree if you do 3 years in the Army. And that's for any public in-state tuition, that's what it pays for. So when we say just, like you're going to get a full ride. So imagine giving up doing 3 years where you're going to get paid. You're going to get to go to school. You're going to get to do all of this stuff. You're going to get college credits for the training that you do. You're going to get job experience. And then at the end of those 3 years, if you just say, hey, the Army's not for me, we're going to give you a full ride scholarship. Like, I think that that's a pretty powerful it's a pretty powerful tool for the Army to have. And it shows their commitment to their soldiers at the end of the day. That's what I think. So what do you guys think about that?
So I've made I knew we were going to do that, Stan.
I did it on purpose.
Go ahead, brother. You got it.
No, I just did it on purpose.
I actually just posted up a job. So I typically do like about a job a day. I'll post up to Facebook. And the most recent post I had, I actually commented on something like this, is that there's no organization that I've ever belonged to that cares more about the soldiers or their employees and their families as much as the Army has. Like, the Army's not a literal human. We just have regulations that govern our actions, essentially. But at no point in my career have I ever felt that I didn't have somebody at my back who's going to help take care of me, right? So even like my coworker, Span, who outranks me, he genuinely cares about my family, and if something was to happen, I can always count on both Rose and Span to have my back, as well as my boss and my boss's boss, and so on and so forth. So a lot of this educational opportunities, it's available to us, but no one's holding your face to the flame, as it were, saying that you have to do it. They present opportunities to be able to better yourself in your life. And then, and they're not going to hold it against you if you don't utilize it. And it's the best way I can really say that, being politically correct.
Yeah. So I think that one thing also that I didn't hit on is that all of these benefits are available to everybody. Like, these aren't things that you have to qualify. The only thing that you have to qualify for is the kicker on the GI Bill for the reserve side. But if you do a successful tour and you get discharged honorably and you do everything that you're supposed to do to get out, you qualify for all of that stuff. There's never a time where they just didn't want me to use my tuition assistance. They're like, you don't qualify for that. Like, no, that never happened. And I was always eligible to use it. And the same for the GI Bill. As soon as I decide to get out, which will probably, might as well be at 20 years now, like, I'll be eligible for it as long as I continue doing what I'm supposed to be doing. There's no reason that I won't qualify for it. So, so I guess, like, just to we can talk a little bit about this. And I think that this is a big one for people that have been in college and they're looking at the Army, but they don't really know if it's something that they should do because they have a college degree. Like, I've talked to a lot of people, especially around this area. There's a lot of college educated people in the Lansing area, a lot of people that went to Michigan State, and a lot of people that We do education tours with all of our educators here. And a lot of those people are super smart people, all college educated, obviously. But at the end of it, after we do a little breakdown of all of the benefits that we have, we probably get, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 teachers coming up to us and like, hey, how can I do the reserves? And one of the main reasons for that is the student loan repayment. That's huge right now because when you look at it across the nation, I think that I did a little bit of research on this before, that like the average student loan debt is about $38,000 to $40,000 per student. And when you average all of that out and you start calculating payments and stuff, that's close to $400 a month for the next 10 years of your life. So, but how do we help alleviate that? Well, we offer $65,000 in student loan repayment. And that's if you qualify for it. So that is one of the things that you would have to qualify for. But have you guys seen anybody take advantage of that? Have you ever, do you know anybody that's taken advantage of the student loan repayment, or have you worked with anybody that's, taken advantage of it?
A lot of my soldiers from my MP days as being a platoon sergeant, soldiers applying and using it to repay their student loans. So that's another great program where, not only do you already have your education, but you're having to pay monthly on that. And the Army says, hey, for your service, we will pay that. So,
yeah. What about you, Sergeant Piper? Have you ever observed somebody use that, and has it worked? And what are some of the stipulations? Do you know that kind of you have to meet criteria as far as to qualify for that, and then have your loans be paid off?
So me specifically, I haven't had anyone that had to go through that. But one of my old friends when I was out in Korea, what was her name? I think it was Dixon, but it was spelled differently than our coworker. But she had a bachelor's degree, and she ended up coming in. She had some student loan debt. I think it was like 50 or 55,000. And then she had joined, obviously it's an automatic promotion if you have a college education, but she wanted to get in because she wanted the practical work experience, as well as it also doubled. It was a double advantage for her because she was able to actually get her student loans repaid by the Army without having to come out of pocket for it, as well as she was also getting that leadership experience so she can open up her own organization and learn how to be an effective manager from literally a business. The Army is a business that is the only one that truly teaches leadership. There's no functional college classroom that's going to teach you how to be a leader, how to hold people accountable as well as hold yourself accountable. There's no real formal education for that. So she saw the benefits of that when she got in, and so she's still in to this day. I saw her out on deployment not long ago. So
right. Yeah, so I've seen a couple people use the student loan repayment. I obviously haven't. So it's pretty awesome. All that, and the only stipulations is that you have to qualify for it is to get a 50 on the ASVAB, which if you have a lot of student loan debt, that's one of the things that you have to be able to do. Okay. And then you also they have to be federal student loans, so they can't be private. So any student loans that you might have that you want to get taken care of, they have to be in a federal student loans status, and that's really it. As far as I know, I'm not super well versed on it, but I know that it's up to $65,000. So for both the reserves and active duty, right, Sergeant Span? You guys also do $65,000, or is it less than that?
I think we're at 50,000 last I looked at it, but that's one of the awesome things about the Army is that we're always ever changing and adapting. As you can see on the news, the Army Corps of Engineers is out there building hospitals right now. Soldiers out there supporting that operation that are normally on an active duty base and now they're out in the community. So I bring that up just to say that the awesome thing about the Army is that we're always adapting. So the last number I knew was 50,000. That doesn't mean that it won't go up. Heck, when I first joined the Army, the Montgomery GI Bill paid $36,000 for college. So,
Right.
it's just always ever evolving and adapting to the current situation. So,
Sorry, I was just trying to look it up real quick. But there's really, I don't see anything that yeah, sorry. So, and I think the cool thing about the reserves too is that they'll do student loan repayment on loans that you take out after you join the reserves. I don't think we don't do that on active duty. So if you take out student loans after you join, then you're not going to get those paid for on the active duty side, because there's really no reason for you to take out student loans on the active duty side. But if you take out student loans in the reserves while you're in the reserves, then they'll pay those off as well, which I think is a pretty cool little benefit. I mean, what other things do you guys think we should bring up here? We talked extensively about a lot of the education programs. I know I'm missing one, at least. So what other things do you guys got?
I mean, how long do we want to continue this conversation?
Oh yeah, I know. So that's what I was trying to think. I think that we covered the main points. As far as I could talk about this forever. There's so much to talk about. So draw me like a map for somebody that you're talking to. What does somebody's path look like? I think everybody's path is different, but imagine you're talking to a freshly graduated 2020 senior, and then they're saying, hey, I want to go to school. Draw me a map for them if they join the active duty Army. Sergeant Piper.
And actually here lately I'm talking to a lot more mechanical/engineer savvy individuals. So they're not so interested in the educational piece. They're more interested in the actual hands-on type of stuff. So but what I tend to tell them is that they get their credits through, so they have this program called ACASP, which I'm sure one day we'll get into that as well. But if you have 2 years of experience in any particular field, you become pre-qualified for a position in the Army, right? So if you want to do welding, you have the certifications necessary, you've done it for 2 years, then you become kind of like a priority to get into the specific job. So that's a lot of the kind of kids that I'm dealing with now, where they already have this predetermined program that lets them continue to do what they want to do in the Army, but they don't have any type of formal education or plans for it. So typically when I'm talking to these individuals, they're able to continue their education through what they're interested in just by joining the military, going through their advanced individual training, their basic training, knocking out those prereqs with CLEP courses and stuff like that once they're in, but then also being able to get further into the weeds about formalizing their education once they're actually at their first duty station. And I'm speaking from the active duty side, so it's a little bit different than when Span paints his picture. So a lot of these kids who aren't super interested in going to school right away, active duty is one of those ones that it can flip both sides. If you're not interested in doing school, it's cool. And if you are, it's still cool. It still fits your life plan, But these kids who aren't interested, much like in my scenario, I still got college credits, 36 college credits, just from going through my formal training stuff. And now that I've been in for 8 years, there's no point for me not to use it. So especially straight out of AIT and basic, it would behoove you to take a course a semester. I love that word.
Sorry, every time I hear that word, I gotta just say it,
But it behooves you to take one course every semester to at least knock it out a little bit at a time. And what that does, especially if you're somebody who just wants to get paid, that one class a semester is going to make you look better than the person to your left and right and get you expedited promotions much, much quicker. So even if you're not educationally drawn, it's still something that's going to help you get paid. It took me a long time to learn that, but
Right.
yeah, that's kind of the picture I paint for individuals.
Yeah, so I do it a little bit different. Sorry, Span. I'm gonna get to you here in a second.
It's cool. I got it. I'm the reservist.
No. It's so there's
we got your reserve Span.
Because there's so many different paths, and I mean, like, I generally talk to people that they're like, well, I want to get into the government. I want to do like work with the FBI, the CIA. Those are the kind of people that I talk to, and a lot of those. So the way that I go about it with them is I'm like, hey, just join an intel job or do whatever you want to do at the end of the day. But like, so a path for just a high school student that's coming straight out of high school, let's say they want to do, I don't know, give me a job, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. You're going to come in, you're going to get job experience, then you're going to get your undergrad paid for, essentially, because, you know, you do 3 years and then you get out and you have work experience, you have like a bunch of college credits already, and then if you decide to get out or you decide to stay in, it doesn't really matter. But you're gonna get a bunch of money for college. And I guess like I like your mechanic style example. So I guess I will go to you, Sergeant Span, because I'm kind of rambling here. So I don't want to like, what do you, when you're talking about somebody that is interested in joining the reserves, like what's a general map that you guys see for them?
Right. So I do want to jump on what you and Sergeant Pfeiffer kind of talked about with the active duty side. There's a couple of things that I saw for an active duty kind of path or look, is that you come into the active duty and you get work experience, like you guys were just talking about. It may be in the career field that you're wanting to get into. It may not be. But regardless, you're going to obtain skills for any career field. That's what I always talk about, whether I'm talking active duty or I'm talking reserves. You're going to get those leadership skills, those team skills, time management skills, all of those intangibles with any job that you take in the Army. And then hopefully you take advantage of that tuition assistance and you start working on that career path that you're looking for once you get out of the Army, whether that's after 3 years or after 20 years. And then when you get out, whatever that career path it is that you're wanting to pursue, whether that is a certification such as a mechanic or a welder, or as a teacher, or I can't think of a lawyer even, that both of those paths are paid for, right? The GI Bill is going to pay for your certifications, any of the training. And a lot of that training, if that's the path that you're going to take once you get out of the Army is going to give you a lot of those. So when you get out and you're using your GI Bill, you can now use your GI Bill for that specialized certificate, that expensive one that only a few people have, that set you apart from, all the other welders that are out there just doing the normal MIG and TIG stuff. Or now when you come in to be a teacher and you get your certificate, you have that training, you have that real world experience of teaching, because as we know, every soldier is a teacher. At some point, you're going to be teaching some class. You're going to be leading some group through some path of something crazy, right? And that same thing applies to the reserves. The only difference is you're only doing it 1 week in a month. So if you're doing the Army 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. So you really should be focusing on whatever that career path is, whether it's a certification in a trades or a college degree. So an example of one of my most recent applicants, future soldiers, they didn't join the Army right out of high school. Their parents thought, you know what, we really don't want you in the Army. We really want you to go to college. So this individual, said, sure, Mom, Dad, I will, go to college. I'll give college a try. He went to college for a year, and that desire to serve just became overwhelming. So he joined the Army Reserves. He can still go to college and fulfill his, parents' hopes and his dreams, and then still serve. And then on top of that, the Army is going to pay him to do those things and then give him a job skill to go along with that degree. Another path is straight out of high school. So you come in straight out of high school, go to basic training, AIT, get that knocked out, and then you start college right away, not having anything to come out of your pocket, right? The other individual, he was able to manage 1 year on his own, having a part-time job. And the other person, they may not have to work at all, because as soon as they finish AIT, that college is going to start getting paid for. So those are the two paths for the reserves that I've seen that are most common. There is a third path, and that is graduates, seniors. Once they're done, they've already got their college degree. They just want to come in, get that student loan repayment, and do their 1 week in a month to serve their country and not have to pay for their student loans.
Yeah. I think the reserves has a pretty good selling point, right? Because they get to stay here too, stay right here in Michigan, or if they find a job somewhere else, they're able to transfer right out of the state into another reserve unit. So like the reserves is a great way to go for people that want to stay around their family in Michigan, but also kind of help eliminate some of their college debt. And then active duty is obviously a great way to, get real work experience. And I think that's one of the things that we need to hit on a little bit more is work experience. Because what I think I've seen so many memes in the last couple of weeks, like people coming out of school with a master's degree, $200,000 of student loan debt, and they don't have work experience, so they can't find a job. And I mean, like, I hear about it more and more every day. People have all these certifications and all these degrees, but they don't have any kind of work experience. And I think that, what we provide is we provide them a way to not have all of that student loan debt, still continue to get their education, but they're also getting work experience while they're doing it. And I mean, when I sit down and I talk to people, I'm like, hey, what if a company offered you all of these crazy benefits, right? And it was a corporation. I don't know, just name one. And they're like, hey, I'm going to pay you to learn your job skill. I'm going to pay you while you perform that job skill. I'm going to give you money to go to college. I'm going to give you and then when you decide to leave the company, I'm also going to give you more money to go to college. And all you have to do is give me 3 years of your time. Why would you not take that? I'm going to give you free health insurance. I'm going to give you free dental. I'm going to take care of your family. I'm going to move, pay for all of this stuff. I'm going to pay for your house. I'm going to pay for your food. And they're going to basically take care of you completely for the next 3 years. And all that you have to do is give them 3 years. And like, what would stop you from taking that job? And I mean, a lot of the people look at me and they're like, well, why would I not take that job? And I'm like, exactly. Why would you not take that job?
Right.
Like, I'm giving you all of that. And I'm giving you the opportunity to pick what you want to do. And all that you have to do is commit for 3 years. And a lot of people that I talk to are like, well, yeah, but that's not for me. And I'm like, okay, well then, I mean, I don't really know, like, the Army's not for you. We get it. The Army's not for everybody. But if a company offered you all of this stuff, you say, why would I not take that job? But when the Army offers you that, you're like, I don't want that job. It's kind of, it's crazy to me.
So and we talk about that a lot too. That's a lot to do with the stigmas of the military as a whole. Yeah. Right. So a lot of the people are hearing the stories about like Vietnam and World War II. Well, most of World War II vets are now gone, but a lot of Vietnam vets. So they think that wars or being a part of any branch of the military service is this grungy thing where you're just sitting on the front line. Like no one is willing to literally sit down and hear that. Like even what I said in my intro was my deployment was voluntary. I asked to go to that. And if I had told my sergeant major, no, I don't really think that's a good move for me right now in my life, he would have just said, okay, I'll find somebody else, you know. So
yeah. And I think I want to leave that for another episode is just a lot of the stigmas and stuff, because I think that we can really delve down into that kind of stuff, and we can kind of help defeat
down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, we can go down that one for a little while. So I think that we'll do that next. But I don't want to keep you guys. You know, everybody's got their families and stuff, so I don't want to keep you guys. I appreciate you guys joining in, and we'll continue to do this. I think that this will be we should do this at least once every couple of days. Just kind of come up with a topic, and then we'll just, like I said, freestyle. Not what I said earlier. Just freestyle, you know. Like, I mean, you know, we can have some pretty good conversations, I think. So we'll wrap this up, and then we'll end it there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and until next time, I guess.